in order to have access to any of this information, because the libraries didn't have it. And, now that the information is coming out, we're seeing that a lot of these men are dead who did these research papers and documents. And this is what this society is built on old research. And so in order to refute their institutions, you got to bring up information from those years, just to refute it. And that's why we have to equip ourselves with more than just Wikipedia, more than just Google. We have to have hard books. We have to have hard information if we want to refute anything that they're saying. Because it's easy for them to doubt. We're going against doubters. All they do is doubt. Satan is a manipulator, and anything you say, he's going to counteract it and say something different. And so we have to be on guard. We have to have our information at hand and ready to fight. It's a great uphill battle of information. And it's just like what the Apocrypha says in Wisdom of Solomon, this is the great war of ignorance. What's going to bring us out of the great war of ignorance? Truth and information from what's been established already. That's what's going to bring us out of this great era. That's what's going to bring people to the light. You mean to tell me all these celebrities are waking up to the truth now? That's not by no accident. The Most High is purposely waking up celebrities and sports stars and entertainers now. I mean, it's been week after week after week these people have been waking up. And it's because the light is so bright, they can't help but to be wrapped up in it. So this is the wrong time to have doubt. This is the wrong time to have fears. By reading a lot of books, not only does it also try to break down your spirit, because you're reading different authors. That's what a lot of people don't understand. You're reading different authors and their naysaying and their doubts. So you have to be stronger than the books that you read, or else you walk away discouraged. So you have to pull and extrapolate from here and from there in order to have a good understanding of what the scriptures are saying about these days and the prophecies. So it's important to have what we have. That's why today's class I wanted to go through Hebrewisms and Idioms and the Song of Solomon. Okay. All praises. Let's go to Colossians first and foremost, as we always do. Give praise to the Most High, YAHAWAH, the power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who sent Mashayach Yahushua on the earth to redeem us from the hands of the wicked, to take us into the kingdom. Give them praise. Colossians chapter 3, verse 17, and whatsoever you do in word or deed, do all by Shem, Mashayach Yahushua, giving thanks to the Heavenly Father by Him. All praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, by Shem, Mashayach Yahushua. Yeah, so let's get into this. Many people believe that the Song of Solomon is a reflection of his love for Queen of Sheba, like I said earlier, but it's not true. Some rabbis, some priests even believe that the story of Song of Solomon is regarding one of his wives, who was a Shulamite, but it's not about her either. Okay, but it's when you look at the scriptures of Song of Solomon, it's interesting how people read this story and think it's about a woman. A lot of Christians believe that it's about the Queen of Sheba. It is the most overlooked, like I said, it is the most overlooked book in the scriptures, the Song of Solomon. People look over it all the time. They don't think that it's of any importance at all. But the Song of Solomon is true, and it's in the scriptures for a reason. But I just want to give you the background on this Song of Solomon. Recently, within the last week, in Egypt, the city of Cairo, the newspaper printed an article. The newspaper name is Makatum, and they had reported that diggers have recently found the rich tomb of Solomon's so-called favorite wife. Her name was Madi Morris of Memphis. They found her. They found her body on the Mount of Moriah, So how is she the most famous one of them? I've never heard of her. I mean, she's in the scriptures, but it's not talked about very much. But that was her name, and they just found it, so they're going to make a big deal out of it. When you think about Solomon, he loved all his wives. He loved all his wives. All his wives were his favorite. Okay, so when we look at First Kings, let's go to First Kings first and foremost. Let's go there first. First Kings chapter 11, and it's documented. Solomon loved all his wives. That's why I said it was not one above the other. First Kings chapter 11, verse 1, but King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh. That must be the one that they're talking about, Queen Mati, or Maris, whatever her name was. Women of the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the Sidonians. So these are the Chinese, the Japanese, and some of these Chinese, Moabites, and Ammonites still dwell in the land of Israel. The Edomites, the Sidonians, the Africans, and Hittites, more Africans, of the nations concerning which the Most High said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon cleaved unto these in love. See, he loved these women. He loved all of them. He cleaved to them. So this is why his heart was corrupted. So the Song of Solomon definitely couldn't be talking about pagan wives, or let alone an Israelite one, because he said he loved them all. It couldn't definitely be talking about Queen of Sheba. Remember, Queen of Sheba was more excited about him than he was about her. So it couldn't be talking about Queen of Sheba. Let's go to verse 3. And he had 700 wives, princes, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. See that? His wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Most High, his power, as was the heart of David, his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, the Africans, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Amorites. Those are more Africans that the Israelites dwelt right amongst. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Most High, and went not fully after the Most High, as did David, his father. See that? So Solomon fell in love with these women and worshiped their gods. So this is not talking about the Song of Solomon. All right? It could not even come close to talking about the Song of Solomon, because even Queen of Sheba didn't have that kind of power over Solomon. So why is Queen of Sheba held on such high regard? Why do you watch these National Geographic channels and they talk about the love between King Solomon and Queen of Sheba? There's nothing in the scriptures that talk about it, that they had a love affair. Nowhere. Haile Selassie was birthed, and they called him of the direct lineage of King Solomon. There's no mention of him having a baby with Queen of Sheba in the scriptures. Although we know he had plenty of children, it's not possible that it couldn't have happened, but it's not mentioned in the scriptures. Nor is it mentioned in any other historical book other than the books of Ethiopia. Okay? In the Kiba Nagas, their so-called religious or spiritual book, it claims that the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon had an affair, a love affair. But the love affair was not that. The love affair was, in the scriptures, let's go to it, that she became a convert. She converted her entire country to the truth. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 10. 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 1. And it reads, And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Most High, she came to prove him with hard questions. It's just like today. They don't believe that we're the Israelites. So they want to prove us to them that we are, that we say who we say we are. That's the thing going on today. They're saying you couldn't possibly be Israelites. They're going to ride it until the ship sinks, that we came on slave ships and we didn't know who we were. They're going to ride that till the wheels fall off, the Amalekite nation. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great train, meaning she came with army, she came with men, she came with servants. One of her servants was from Egypt. He was a great man. I forget his name. I think the book of Josephus speaks on that. But she had servants from Egypt. Remember, the Ethiopians fought against the Egyptians. So she had servants from Egypt. That says, with camels that bear spices, and very much gold and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all her questions. There was not anything hid from the king, which he told her not. And when the queen of Sheba had seen all Solomon's wisdom, and the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, their clothing, and his cupbearers, and his ascents, by which he went up into the house of the Most High, there was no more spirit in her. She couldn't believe how they operated. She couldn't believe the way that they dressed, the gold and the silver of the cupbearers, and the upstanding positions that they held, and the way they walked. And she couldn't believe it. She was astonished. And she said to the king, it was a true report that I heard in mine own land of thy acts, of thy wisdom. Howbeit I believed not the words until I came and mine eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. Thy wisdom and prosperity exceedeth the fame which I heard. So she was taken back on what she saw. She had never seen anything like it. Not even in Egypt. Happy are thy men. Happy are these thy servants. Everybody was happy. Wasn't nobody mad. Wasn't nobody frowning. It was a very peaceful, happy kingdom, which stand continually before thee, and that hear thy wisdom. Blessed be the Most High thy power, which delighted in thee, to set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Most High loved Israel forever. Therefore made he thee king to do judgment and justice. Think about that. Think about all the kingdoms on the earth, and look how they have one going against another. The Republicans fighting the Democrats. You go to Europe, it's the same thing. They got parties that fight against each other. You go to China, it's the same thing. Japan, the same thing. They rule by might in China. Communism in Japan. But when the Queen of Sheba saw Israel, she saw that everybody was happy. Everybody was in peace. Everybody looked like they was the king. She walked up on the doorman and saw the king, the doorman, and thought he was the king with the clothing that he had on. She thought he was King Solomon. Verse 10. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and spices, very great store, and precious stones. There came no more such abundance of spices as these, which the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. And if your eyes drift down to the next verse, it says, and the navy also of Hiram that brought gold from Ophir, brought in from Ophir great plenty of almond trees and precious stones. Now, the thing about Hiram, a lot of brothers read about Hiram saying he was a Canaanite, he was an African. But Hiram's mother was from the tribe of Naphtali. So he had some kind of Israelite descent. That's why he was able to go to and fro. He loved Solomon. His mom was an Israelite. You have to do your research and look deeper. Yes, he was a Canaanite, but the Israelites dealt with the Canaanites. So that's going to be something very interesting during this class, that you need to follow, because the Israelites and the Canaanites intermarried with one another. All right. There's a law that we're not supposed to do it, but look at King Solomon, all over the place. All right. So this should say something about the complexion of the Israelites. Right now, before we go any further, you should see that there is a significant difference. And Queen of Sheba, coming from the south, being a dark person from Cush, a Cushite with dark faces. Why would she look upon Solomon as a pale-faced man and not be astonished? She looked on him as a dark, she respected Solomon. So that should say a lot about his color and the kingdom's color. Very, very important. People have to read between the lines. She conceived and she converted to being of the kingdom of Judea, the southern kingdom. People, it wasn't even the southern kingdom then. It was one great kingdom. It was the kingdom of Judah. Because King Solomon was from the tribe of Judah. So it wasn't even split yet. So people did not convert to the Jewish, to be Jewish. The term Jewish is something that wasn't even heard of back then. That's during this generation. That's a brainwashing belief. So Jewish is to be like or pertaining to. Okay, today, that's what it means today. Meaning to convert. Basically, the Jewish people of today converted to our ancestry inheritance. They converted to being from the tribe of Judah. So the majority of people today that call themselves Jewish are all converts. They are not the ancient Judeans, nor are they descended from the Judeans. Let's go to Revelation 2 and 9. Revelation 2, verse 9. And it reads, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but the synagogue of Satan. Who was saying that they've been Jews since 1948? This book was put together and written, think about it, in the 1611 was put together, 1619, it was given to the Americas. We got here in 1619. We couldn't read or write. Now we're reading and writing, and we're finding out who the Jewish people are pertaining to the book. We have seen all these things that have taken place over the last 100 years where they have left Europe, they left the Caucasus Mountain, they've left Russia, they've left Germany, and moved to Jerusalem under the hands of the League of Nations with their power and their might, and now they're calling themselves Jewish. Our fathers seen that. Now we're learning about the truth, and we're reading the scriptures, and we're seeing in the book of Revelation that the scriptures is cutting them, telling them YAHAWAH knows about those who say they're Jews and are not. But the synagogue of Satan, we don't have any synagogues. They are the synagogue of Satan. They are claiming to be something that they're not. And then in the beginning of Revelation 2 and 9, he says, I know your works and tribulation. I know your problems, your poverty. We're impoverished. This was written for today. Revelation 3 and 9. Look, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved you. So he's telling us right here that those are not the real Jews. And history is now exposing them that they're not. So let's find out how many people became Judeans in the Old Testament, because there were converts. Let's go to the book of Esther. When you do your research and go into the 13th tribe, there's a book by Arthur Koestler. He wrote about who these so-called Jewish people are. And they are not the real Jews. They are from the Khazarian Empire. They are Edomites who converted. Esther chapter 8 And let's drop down to verse 16. Esther is chapter 8, verse 16. And it reads, the Jews, or the Judeans, had light and gladness and joy and honor. And in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews or Judeans had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, Israelites, for the fear of the Israelites fell upon them. So what did they do? They all converted. Many of the people converted to being what? Israelites. Judeans. They converted. They were afraid. All right. So it's in the scriptures that people were converted. They became our servants. They became our tributaries. So this is why our Father in heaven said, let the tares grow with the wheat. That's what he spoke of in Matthew chapter 13. Let's go to Matthew 13. Matthew 13. And all this is important pertaining to the Song of Solomon. It's very, very important. Let's get right to it. Let's read verse 30. Matthew 13, verse 30. He says, let both grow together unto the harvest. And in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. See that? So the tares and the wheat are different. The tares are those who may have converted. The tares are those who may have grown up as a mixed Israelite with no belief, with no lineage through their patriarch to the Israelite heritage. All right, let's go down to verse 36. Then YAHAWAH sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom. But the tares are the children of the wicked one. So they're going to grow amongst us, these tares. The enemy that sold them is the devil. Who sold them? The devil did. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. Let me give you a good example of who sold them as the devil. King Herod. King Herod was an Edomite. Who put him in office? The Greeks and the Romans, the Roman Greco Empire put him in office. They put him as king over us, Israelites. He was a tare claiming to be a Jew. He was the wicked one. He was killing Israelites. He was killing babies. He killed his whole family off, his sons, killed off his wives. That's the wicked one. He was sold in there. You can't sew. This is like the Most High said about when you put your fringes on a shirt, don't sew it on an old garment. You can't just sew anything together. Verse 40, as therefore the tares are gathered and burnt in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. See that? Now we're seeing these Jewish people claiming to be us. They've been sold in by the wicked one. That's why Revelation 2:9 says what it says. Now they're boasting over us, the Israelites, the true people. This is why our Father says in the Gospels, Romans 8:16. Let's go there. Romans chapter 8, verse 16. It reads, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. And if children, then heirs. Now everybody can't be heirs to the kingdom of the Most High. And if children, then heirs, heirs of the Most High, and joint heirs with Hamashiach. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. Now, interesting thing is, we just read in the book of Esther why they converted. Do you remember why they converted? They converted out of fear that the Israelites would bring destruction upon them. No one is converting right now to who we are as Israelites because they're not in fear of us. You see that? We have no power in this kingdom other than our Heavenly Father, which we're waiting for him to come. He gives us an amount of power to sustain ourselves, but we haven't received that spiritual power yet. Spiritual power to take down nations. That spiritual power. We haven't gotten it yet. But when we get it, all these nations are going to break. They're all going to bow down to us. All right. Let's go to Romans chapter 2. Because see, there's a separation and an order with the Father. And the Most High is always going to deal with order. He's never going to go against what he said. Romans chapter 2, verse 8. Romans 2 and 8. It says, but unto them that are contentious and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation, and wrath, tribulation, and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil. Of the Jew first, of the Israelite first, and also of the Gentile. All right. So those who convert, this is what they got to do. They got to follow us. If they don't follow us, they're going to have anguish, tribulation, indignation, wrath, unright. All that stuff is going to be their judgment. All right, verse 10. But glory, honor, and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Israelite first, and also to the Gentile. So there is an order. When he says the last shall be first and the first shall be last, who's in first place right now? It ain't us. We're the last. That's why he said that. We're going to be first and they're going to be last. That's why he said to the Jew first and the Gentile. He has to put an order in place because people don't know order right now. They think this is normal. What we're going through today. For there is no respect of persons with the Most High. Oh, this is Pastor's favorite one. There's no respect of persons with God. That's what pastors say. That's what this is talking about regarding judgment. But there is no respect of persons with the Most High. No matter what you do, you break these laws, judgment is coming. But he does have respect unto his people, and only his people. That's what you got to remember. So when you read this verse, these pastors don't know what they're talking about, but it's regarding judgment. There's no respect of persons with the Most High. Judgment came on King David when he stole Bathsheba from Uriah. He received judgment. Judgment came on King David when he numbered Israel. No respect of persons. Judgment will follow. We have to keep the laws. Let's go to Exodus chapter 2, verse 23. Exodus 2 and 23. Let me see here. Yeah, that's what I want. Exodus 2 and 23. And it came to pass in process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up unto the Most High by reason of the bondage. And the Most High heard their groaning, and the Most High remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And the Most High looked upon the children of Israel, and the Most High had respect unto them. Who did he have respect upon? The children of Israel. So he does have respect. He has respect unto his people when they do right and when they ask for help. He does have respect unto his people. Romans 2 and 12. For as many as have sinned without law shall also perish without law. And as many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law. That's not no riddle. If you sin without the law, you're in trouble. What kind of repentance you going to get? What favor have you built up with the Most High by trying to keep the laws? To get repentance, to get mercy. It's all about trying. The Most High would be like, okay, you tried. Let's try it again. I see that you're serious. You didn't mean to do it. You're crying. Okay, let's try it again. This is what the children of Israel, this is how they got respect unto the Most High. They kept the laws, and the Most High showed them mercy. It says, shall also perish without law. As many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law. Of course, you're going to be judged by the law. For not the hearers of the law are just before the Most High. So you can hear and believe, like we said last week. You can hear and believe, but you're not just because you hear and believe. It says, but the doers of the law shall be justified. All right? The doers of the law. Now, if you want to argue with that, the precept to that would be 2nd Ezra in the Apocrypha. 2nd Ezra. And let's go chapter 7, verse 20. And let's see the argument. Because the scriptures tell you, precept shall be upon precept. So it says in 2nd Ezra, chapter 7, verse 20 of the Apocrypha, it reads, for there be many that perish in this life because they despise the law of the Most High that is set before them. They despised it. See that? Because you didn't keep the law, guess what? You're going to perish in this life because you despise the law. Verse 21, for the Most High have given straight commandments to such as came, what they should do to live, even as they came, and what they should observe, listen to this, to avoid punishment. There is no respecter of persons when it comes to punishment. Again, so you know. There's no respecter of persons to that. So now you know what that's speaking of. And if we keep reading, it says, because a lot of Christians, they were like, well, we keep reading on, brother. But we're going to read on. For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, because the Gentiles, they don't have the law. They wasn't given the covenants. For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law, okay, they're going to try to keep a little bit of the laws because they see you doing it. These having not the law, they never had the law, are law unto themselves. They're not going to really try to keep it. They're just doing it because you're doing it for that day. Oh, I'm not eating no pork. Oh, you don't eat pork? I'm not going to eat none either. Tomorrow I'm going to eat some. Oh, you kept the Sabbath? Oh, because I'm at your house, I'm going to keep the Sabbath. But next Saturday, I'm going to Disneyland. Which show the work of the law written in their hearts, right? They try, they know a little bit. Their conscience also bearing witness, because they tried. And their thoughts, the meanwhile, accusing. They're like, man, I don't want to do this. This is boring. I'm trying to keep these laws like them. Or else excusing one another, because they will excuse. Man, you ain't got to do that. You ain't got to keep the Sabbath just because he's keeping it. You know, you got your own conscience. You got your own mind. In the day when the Most High shall judge the secrets of men by Mashayach YAHAWAH according to the gospel. All right, so go back to Sirach. I'm sorry, go back to 2nd Ezra chapter 7. Concerning Romans chapter 2, 2 verse 15 and 16, just go back to 2nd Ezra chapter 7 and read verse 22. 2nd Ezra chapter 7 verse 22. Nevertheless, they were not obedient unto him, but spoke against him and imagined vain things. That's what they did. And deceived themselves by their wicked deeds. And said of the Most High that he is not, and know not his ways. See? That's their conscience. It's their conscience going against the law. But his law have despised and denied his covenants and his statutes. Have they not been faithful? Have not performed his works? And therefore Esdras for the empty are empty things. These are people of the Gentiles. They don't know how to keep, they don't know how to have any restraint because they're empty. He says, and therefore Esdras for the empty are empty things. And for the full, those of us who keep the laws, because we're full of what? The oil. And for the fool are the fool things. See that? So that's what that's talking about. Go back to Romans chapter 2, and let's go to verse 16 again. In the day when the Most High shall judge the secrets of men by Mashayach Yahushua according to my gospel. All right, what's the gospel? Let's go to the will of the Most High. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Ecclesiastes. Keep skipping right over it. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. And let's go to verse 13. Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. For the Most High shall bring every work into judgment. Who's going to bring the judgments? It's going to be YAHAWAH. He's going to bring his Father's judgment on earth. For the Most High shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, like Romans 2 and 16 said, in the day when the Most High shall judge the secrets of men by Mashayach Yahushua, according to my gospel. It says, for the Most High shall bring every work into judgment, in Ecclesiastes 12 and 14, with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So every secret thing is going to be judged by Mashayach Yahushua. This section of the class, we're going to talk about the jolting of your memory about our culture. This is dealing with our forefathers. There's so many idioms and cliches and sayings in today's time. To say you are Hebrew, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're an Israelite. Because a lot of brothers dwell on that. I'm a Hebrew, and not say Israelite. So let's look at the word Hebrew and let's see something. Let's go to Genesis. Let's go to Genesis 14 and 13. Yeah, that's it. So it reads, and there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew. Okay, so Abraham was called a Hebrew. Where did this word Hebrew come from? Let's go to Genesis chapter 10 and let's find out where this word Hebrew came from. Hebrews 10 verse 21. And it reads, unto Shem, also the father of all the children of Eber. Remember, Shem, Ham, and Japheth was on the boat of Noah. So it says, unto Shem, also the father of all the children of Eber. Eber is where the word Hebrew comes from. Eber means of the past. Ibariyah. It means of the past. The brother of Japhet the elder, even to him were children born. The children of Shem, here it is right here. Elam, which is over there in East India, Ashur, over there too, and Arphaxad, our forefather, and Lud, and Aram. Aram means to be quiet. That's what Aram means. And the children of Aram, Uz, and Hol, and Gether, and Maash. And Arphaxad begot Selah, and Selah begot Eber, right, our forefather. And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, where in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. So the main thing that we're looking at is, where did this word Hebrew come from? It came from our forefather, Eber. All right. So like I said, just to say that you are Hebrew does not mean that you are an Israelite. If you call yourself a Hebrew only, you might as well call yourself a Phoenician, because they were intertwined, Hebrew and Phoenicians. So this is important because you don't want to taint the spirit of the Most High, okay, by calling yourself a Phoenician or Hebrew. But when you look at Romans 8 and 16, like we said earlier, we went there earlier, but let's look at it again. This is what I meant by tainting. You don't want to be a tear. Romans 8 and 16, the Spirit of itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. And if children, then heirs and heirs of the Most High, and joint heirs with Mashayach, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. Now, I know I've read this for the last 2 weeks, but I got to read it again so you can see who the heirs are. Romans chapter 9. Romans 9, verse 3. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Mashayach for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, and the glory, and the covenants, and the giving of the law, and the service of the Most High, and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Christ came. Christ was an heir to the fathers. We are heirs to the Father. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Does Hebrews include all pre-Israelite people? Does it include all pre-Israelite people? Hebrews. Yes. Because they weren't even born yet. All right. They were in, I'll say it like this. They were in Palestine Hebrewing. They were brewing. That's why we call ourselves Hebrews. Palestine or Canaan, in regards to Hebrew, there are no ethnic distinctions between those two. You hear about Palestine and Canaan, there's no ethnic distinctions. Back in the day, they looked just alike. They were African nations. Remember, from the Palestines before, it was called Philistia, which is where the Philistines come from. And the Philistines are, get it in Genesis. I want you brothers and sisters to see this powerful information. Genesis chapter 10. Again, let's go there. Go to 10 and 14. Go to 10 and 13. And it reads, and Mizraim is Egypt. Mizraim begot Ludum, Anamin, Lehimbim, I'm butchering this, and Naphthaim, and Pathrusim, and Kathluim, out of whom came Philistia. So the Philistines came from Mizraim. So they were a dark nation. They came from Ham. So that's what Palestine was. It was the land of the Philistines. And then you had the Canaanites right by them, two dark nations. All right, that's why I said in regards to the Hebrew, there are no ethnic distinctions because Abraham came from this land. That's why in the Strong's Dictionary it speaks not the Negroes, because indeed we are Hebrews, but we are also Israelites. We came from that land area. We were intertwined with the Canaanites and the Philistines, two dark nations. So the Hebrew-speaking Canaanites came before the Arameans. All scholars know that the Hebrews and the Phoenicians are essentially the same in language and in other distinctions. And the people of Carthage, which came after that, adopted the ancient language during the time of Hannibal. You guys all know who Hannibal is, right? Hannibal is the great warrior from North Africa that went against Rome to conquer Rome and won the First Punic War against Rome. That's Hannibal. They adopted the language of Hebrew, which is also ancient Phoenician language. So when you hear about people speaking Phoenician language, it is the pure Hebrew language. And most of North Africa spoke that language. Like I said, Carthage was Canaanite in origin. So for people to say, oh, Hannibal wasn't black, it's crazy. You're talking about North Africa. You're talking about Africa. A lot of Israelites, a lot of Hamitic people that are dark dwelled up in North Africa. So in origin, Carthage had a lot of Israelites. Hiram, his mother was from Naphtali, the tribe of Naphtali. But his father was from the land of Ur, where Abraham was from. It doesn't make any sense for people to say that the Israelites are white people or Caucasian-looking people. It doesn't make any sense. Or Jewish Ashkenazi. That doesn't make any sense either, because Ashkenaz is from Japhet. Why would you say I'm an Ashkenazi Jew? They don't know their history. Ashkenazi comes from Japhet, which was also another dark nation. You know, the Hebrew language was a pure language when it was spoken of in Carthage. Just think about it. If Hannibal conquered Rome, the world wouldn't be speaking different dialects of Latin. They'd be speaking different dialects of Hebrew. Think about that. If he had conquered Rome, we'd still be speaking Hebrew to the utmost. It'd be different dialects all over the world. So when did Aramaic come in? When did that actually come in? It came in after Solomon, Jeroboam II. That's when Aramaic came in, because now all you hear, oh, this is Aramaic Hebrew. Now you hear Yiddish Hebrew. But we were speaking Aramaic. Let's go to 2 Kings because of the captivities. You know, our languages start to get watered down. 2 Kings chapter 18. And let's go to 18 verse 26. 18 verse 26. And it reads, Then said Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, the Shebna, and Joah unto Rabshakeh, Speak, I pray thee, to thy servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it, and talk not with us in the Israelite language, in the ears of the people that are on the wall. It's like, please don't speak Hebrew unto us, because if you speak that and the people on the wall hear that you speak in Hebrew to us, they're going to know that we're Israelites. They were afraid to speak the ancient Hebrew language. They would rather speak Aramaic so they wouldn't be outcast. This was in 2 Kings, after the kingdom is split. So this is when we began to speak Aramaic. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 28. They didn't want the kingdom of Judah to come back. They were afraid. Just like today, a lot of folks don't want to speak Hebrew. Nothing wrong with speaking it. Isaiah chapter 28, verse 11. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people. See that? To whom he said, This is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. So they didn't want to be spoken to in the old language. They wanted to be spoken to in a foreign language, a pagan language. Our people. Let's go to Ezra 4 in the Bible. Ezra chapter 4. Interesting, isn't it? You see us getting broken down all through the scriptures. Ezra chapter 4, verse 7. Ezra 4:7. And in the days of Artaxerxes wrote Bishlam and Mithridath, Tabio, and the rest of their companions unto Artaxerxes, king of Persia, and the writing of the letter was written in the Syrian tongue and interpreted in the Syrian tongue. So we was also speaking not only Aramaic, but we speak in Syrian languages too. All right, where did the Syrian language come from? Syrian language came out of the area of Mesopotamia. I said Mesopotamia. That's where it originally came from, Syrian language. It came from one of our brethren of Shem, Ashur, and Aram. That's where that language came from. It came from our ancient lineage. Abraham was in one of the most diverse nations of all. He was mostly around Hamitic nations. When we think about Abraham on earth, and he journeyed outside of earth, he dwelt amongst the Hittites, he dwelt amongst the Amorites, the Hivites, the Girgasites, the Perizzites, the Tyrenianites, the Canaanites and the Philistines. All these African nations Abraham dwelt around. So why out of all these people was he called different? He wasn't called different. If Abraham looked different, don't you think they would have said something? Don't you think they would have said Abraham was white? Abraham was red? He looked just like the African nations. He was a dark man. See? It just takes a little sense just to read the scriptures and understand. Don't take much. Let's go to Genesis chapter 14. And let's read verse 10. Genesis 14 and 10. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there. Now Sodom and Gomorrah was also Hamitic. And they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their victuals went their way. And they took Lot. Where did Lot dwell? In Sodom and Gomorrah, around a bunch of Hamitic nations, dark nations. Abram's brother's son. Who's Abram's brother? Nahor. Remember, Nahor died early, and Lot decided to go with his uncle, Abraham. It says, who dwelt in Sodom and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped. Where did this man escape from? Being captured by the Hamitic people. He escaped. He was a messenger, and told Abram the Hebrew, they were calling him a Hebrew back then, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abraham. These were friends of Abraham, the Amorites, more Africans. They were friends with Abraham. So Abram and his men were called Hebrew. So in the midst of all these nations, they were all black nations. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 9. 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 20. 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 20. And all the people that were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, their children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel also were not able utterly to destroy, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bondservice unto this day. So Solomon didn't kill them all off. There were still dark nations in the land. He couldn't get rid of them because they were also dark nations. So he was enslaving, it was dark nations enslaving dark nations. Remember, his father, King David, chased off the Edomites into the mountains and killed the majority of the Edomites, and they never came back. That's why Job in chapter 30 talks about them. He talks about the Edomites. Go there so you can see. I'm not being racist in any way by saying white people. That's what they are. They call us black people. How's that racist? Job chapter 30. People are just sensitive. Job 30 verse 1. But now they that are younger than I have me in derision, whose father I would have disdained to have set with the dogs of my flock. This is Job talking about Esau. Yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished. For want and famine they were solitary, alone, flying into the wilderness in former time, desolate and waste. These are your cavemen. They went into the wilderness. They flew. They ran. King David chased them out of the land. Who cut up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. If you ever watch Quest of Fire, watch those cavemen and watch what they eat. This verse stands out. Who cut up mallows by the bushes? They was cutting up mallows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat. They were driven forth from among men. See that? They cried after them as after a thief. Men was chasing them out. Get out of here! To dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in caves of the earth, and in the rocks. Among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yea, children of basement. They were viler than the earth. This is when Ezekiel was talking about these basemen rule over us. That's what it's talking about. They became kings over us now. They run us now. They were the smallest nation. Remember, Obadiah said, let's go to Obadiah chapter 1. Obadiah chapter 1. Obadiah chapter 1. This is verse 1. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Most High, concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Most High. An ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. Y'all know what that means when he said he made them small among the heathen. There's more people of color on the earth than Esau. He is small among the heathen. I'm not just talking about black people. I'm talking about all nations of color, are all, especially the heathen nations, are darker than Esau. That's why he says, you are greatly despised. Wherever he go, they say he's the devil. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. That's what he said. That's what Job just said. Whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? They ran so high up in the mountains, they're like, ain't nobody going to come up here and get us. Now they got skyscrapers. So yeah, that's what that's talking about. Prophecies. Like I said, let's go back to the topic. The Hebrews and the pre-Israelites were absorbed and assimilated for, just think about it, they were assimilated for over 1,000 years around dark nations of Ham. So how in the world could they be white or pale skinned? 2500 BC and before this was going on. And think about it, after Solomon came the Babylonian Empire, another dark nation, which caused a Babylonian exile. A lot of brothers took off. A dispersion happened. Do the math. So with the Israelites that converted, there is no national, when you look at the Jewish converts, when you look at the Jewish converts, there's no national consciousness of descent from Abraham. When you ask them, are you from Abraham? A lot of them Jewish people will say, no, they're not from Abraham. Even in the book, The 13th Tribe with Arthur Koestler, he says there is no lineage of them going back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So when you look at the Ishmaelites, which are the so-called Arabs today, when you look at the Ishmaelites and the Bedouins of every tribe, and those of the Midianites and the Sabines, they all claim Abraham. Isn't that ironic? How is the Ishmaelites still able to remember? They're still able to remember that the Arabs, that their forefather is Abraham, because they know they're from Ishmael. The so-called white man don't know that he's from Abraham. Now, Ishmael originally was a dark man. He was dark too. Because think about it, his mother, Hagar, was an Egyptian. She was an Egyptian from the dark nation. She was a Hamitic lady. So Ishmael was dark. And Ishmael descendants mainly lived in southern Arabia. But eventually some of them drifted into the modern day Palestine and fused and mingled with the population of the Greeks and the Romans. That's how you see a lighter shade of the Ishmaelites. But the original Ishmaelites were dark. A lot of them married Nubians and things like that. Think about it. Where did Ishmael go? He left the land of Abraham and he went amongst more Hamites. So he had to marry somebody who was a dark nation down in southern Arabia. All right. When you look at Isaac, Isaac married his father's brother's Nahor's daughter. When you look at Genesis 25 and 20, that's what he did. And then Jacob married Rebekah, the brother of Laban's daughter. So Israel was building through the Egyptian dynasties and the Canaanite dynasties Because remember, we were in captivity, not only in Egypt, but we were also in captivity in Canaan, pursuant to the Septuagint Bible, for 250 years. So a lot of intermingling was going on, until we was finally delivered as a nation. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1. When the Most High thy power shall bring thee into the land, whither thou goest to possess it, it has cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. See, we were in the southern region. And the southern region was mostly Hamitic nations. That's why when you see us go into captivity in Assyria and Babylon and Persia and the Medes, the Gentiles changed nations. They weren't these nations anymore. They became the nations of the nations above. They kept going up. Go to 1 Ezra chapter 8 in the Apocrypha. 1 Ezra chapter 8, verse 69. Says, remember, Esau fled out of the land and went up. So it says, the nation of Israel, the princes and priests and Levites have not put away from the strange people of the land, nor the pollutions of the Gentiles, to which the Canaanites, they still around, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, those are Hamitic nations. Now watch it say, and the Moabites, and the Egyptians, and the Edomites. So the Moabites and the Edomites became Gentiles, which were in our captivities. Versus when we left Egypt, it was different. It was all Hamitic nations. So he says, and when in Deuteronomy 7 and 2. Deuteronomy 7 and 2. And when the Most High thy power shall deliver them before you, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. That's what Solomon did. Thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other powers. So will the anger of the Most High be kindled against you, and destroy you suddenly. But thus shall you deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars, break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire. Solomon didn't do that. He built temples for them. Verse 6, for thou art holy people unto the Most High thy power. The Most High thy power hath chosen you to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. That's what kills all Gentiles. When we say that, they hate us even more. That's when they really hate us. But yeah, this is what happened. Let's get into the Song of Solomon. Let's just touch it real quick. So that's some of our history. There's so much more of our history that needs to be studied and produced. But that proves that we could not be pale-skinned Israelites from the beginning. Okay? We were always people of color, and the nations that were around us were always people of color. Let's go to the Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon after Ecclesiastes. So all that plants a beautiful background for the Song of Solomon. So this is not a story or about the Queen of Sheba. Again, I am stating that for the record. It is not about Queen of Sheba. They are making the Bible say something it's not saying. Those Gentiles that speak on this story think they have a way in based on Queen of Sheba. These are some devils, because just by saying that this is about Queen of Sheba is saying that the Gentiles could be drafted in. All right. Let's read the first verse. Song of Solomon, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon. Let him kiss me with the kiss of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine. This is the courtship with the Most High, not a woman. Other people worship other gods like Islam, Roman Catholicism, Christendom. You know, this is talking about something else. We are kissing our Father. Let's go to let's go to 1 Kings 19 and 18. Let me show you. When we kiss the Father, we are in courtship with Him. 1 Kings chapter 19. Let's read verse 18. 1 Kings 19 and 18. It reads, "Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel." Talking about Elijah saying he was the only one. But the Most High said, I got 7,000 reserved. It says, "All the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which have not kissed him." See that? So who were these pagan prophets kissing? They were kissing another God. They wasn't kissing our holy God, which is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Let's go back to Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 2. It says, "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth." So we're not fornicating with other gods. We're not committing adultery with other gods. We are with our power. We're kissing our Father. Because it says, "For thy love is better than wine." See that? Verse 3. "Because of the savor of thy good ointments, thy name is as ointment poured forth. Therefore do the virgins love thee." How can we be virgins to the Father? Because this ain't talking about virgins in Jerusalem at that time. This is talking about us transforming. This is all about Israel. Let's go to Sirach chapter 15. Let's find out who these virgins are. "He that feareth the Most High will do good, and he that hath the knowledge of the Most High's law shall obtain her. And as a mother shall she meet him, and receive him as a wife married of a virgin." So when you come into the truth, you become a virgin, because this is the only thing you believe in. You don't believe in any other gods. You don't believe in any other religions. So when you read Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 3, it's talking about us having the ointment of our Father, which is the ointment is the laws, right? When we read, we're going to go into it. Let's read on. Verse 4, it says, "Draw me, we will run after thee. The king hath brought me into his chambers. We will be glad and rejoice in thee. We will remember thy love more than wine. The upright love thee." So what does getting to the king's chambers mean? It means that we are of one mind. We are filled with the ointment of the Most High. Let's go to Matthew chapter 25. Precepts coming at you. So as you can see, this couldn't possibly be talking about a woman. We are the woman. Israel is that woman. Matthew chapter 25, and let's read verse 1. "Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamp and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them." What is that oil? The oil is the ointment that we read in Song of Solomon. We got to have that ointment. If we don't have that ointment, we ain't going to get into the kingdom. "But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, Give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out." The oil is the laws. That's your light. That's your oil. "But the wise answered, saying, Not so, lest there be not enough for us." Because, for the oil to be completely empty, that means that your works have stopped. In order to have oil in our bodies right now, we have to continue to be in the truth. We have to continue to do the work for our oils to stay in our bodies, in our minds. And that's what happened here. These virgins lost their oil. They stopped keeping the laws. Verse 8, and the foolish said unto the wise, give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, not so, lest there be not enough for us and you, but go ye rather to them that sell and buy for yourselves. Go learn some more, because you forgot. You forgot what you're supposed to do. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut. Afterward came also the other virgins, saying, Mashayach, Mashayach, open to us. But he answered and said, verily I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man travailing in a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. See that? Let's go back to Song of Solomon. So that's what Song of Solomon chapter 1 verse 4 is speaking of. We're going into the chambers of the Most High. Verse 5 in the Song of Solomon reads, I am black, but comely. All right. Now, what Edomites like to say is, I am tan. Now, they changed the word black as they go. They don't like to claim that the person was black at all. That's just, there's no way it can relate to us. But the scriptures tell us, I am black but comely. You can't even change that if you wanted to. He said, I'm black and handsome. O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar. Now, I told you already that Ishmael was black. He came from Abraham, a dark man. And Ishmael, when it says as the tents of Kedar, it's talking about Ishmael's lineage. It's talking about his heritage as the curtains of Solomon. So Ishmael was a dark, dark man. Even if he married the Midianites, who were closer in lineage to him, which was of Abraham's wife Keturah lineage, he would be even darker. Go to First Chronicles. First Chronicles, and let's check on Ishmael. People don't like to call Ishmael black, because Ishmael looks down on dark people. First Chronicles, chapter 1, verse 27. First Chronicles, chapter 1, verse 27. Abram, the same is Abraham. The sons of Abraham are Isaac and Ishmael. These are the generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Naboth, then Kedar, and Abdil, and Mibsam. So here it is. These are the sons of Ishmael. Kedar was one of his sons. Kedar was very, very dark. So if Solomon is talking about the daughters of Israel, he's saying that they're dark people. He says, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards. But my own vineyard have I not kept. All right, let's look at a precept on verse 6. Let's see what he's talking about when he talks about that his mother's children were angry with him. Let's go to Sirach, chapter 5, in the Apocrypha. 2 Ezra chapter 5, verse 33, and it reads, And I said, Speak on, my power. Then said he unto me, Thou art sore troubled in mind for Israel's sake. Lovest thou that people better than he that made them? So this is what Solomon was doing. He was talking about how he loved the people, and the people didn't really care about anything. It says, And I said, No my power, but of very grief have I spoken, for my reins pain me every hour. while I labor to comprehend the way of the Most High and to seek out part of his judgment. And he said unto me, Thou canst not. And I said, Wherefore, my power? Whereunto was I born then? Why was I born? Or why was not my mother's womb then my grave? That I might not have seen the travail of Jacob, and the wearisome toil of the stock of Israel. So when you look at the Song of Solomon, this is what he was talking about. Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keepers of the vineyards, but my own vineyard have I not kept. Remember, Joseph felt the same way. He said he had a dream that he was the son, and all his brothers, they hated him. This is how Solomon was feeling during this time. When you read the book of Romans, Solomon was feeling just like Paul. Paul said that he was a curse for his brethren, that he wished he was a curse from Mashayach for his brethren and his kinsmen according to the flesh, who were Israelites, because they didn't want to believe. So in the Song of Solomon, Solomon is feeling the same way. Let's see, Ezekiel 37. Let's go there. Ezekiel 37. Let's read verse 7 here. The Song of Solomon. It says, Tell me, O thou whom my soul loveth, where thou feedest, where thou makest thy flock to rest at noon. For why should I be as one that turneth aside by the flocks of thy companions? See that? Why should I go away? Why should I leave the flock? And who were his companions? And to find out who the companions are, we already know that it's talking about Israel, but the whole story is about Israel. And he's talking about them over and over and over again. But when he speaks certain words, like he says companions, Ezekiel 37, verse 16 reads, Ezekiel 37, verse 15, it says, The word of the Most High came again unto me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it, for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it, for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions. And join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. So in the Song of Solomon, he's talking about the companions of Israel. Drop down to verse 21 in Ezekiel 37. It says, And say unto them, Thus saith the Most High, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel. And one king shall be king to them all. And they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. So that's what Song of Solomon is talking about. It's talking about YAHAWAH coming back to bring these kingdoms, these nations, these companions back together and give us all the gifts that our Father has blessed us with. It says, If thou not know, this is Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 8. If thou know not, O thou fairest among women, go thy way forth by the footsteps of the flock, and feed thy kids besides the shepherd's tents. The kids ain't little children. Kids are goats. I have compared thee, O my love, to a company of horses in Pharaoh's chariots. Thy cheeks are commonly with rows of jewels, thy neck with chains of gold. I'm going to stop right there, but basically this whole book, and there's more breakdowns, especially in chapter 5, there's more breakdowns all the way through it that deal with the whole scriptures. You got to understand, Solomon understood all the scriptures. He had ultimate wisdom. So when he wrote this poem or this song, it was dealing with every chapter in this Bible. The Aleph, Bet, Vet, Gamma, Daleth, Hey, Sa, Phi, and Chet, Tet, all the Hebrew alphabets, and everything in here was in the Song of Solomon. It's not about Queen of Sheba. It's not about the Shulamite queen. It's not about the queen that they found in Egypt, but it's about the Most High's people being in love with him. And that's what this whole book is about. And with that, I'm going to ask, are there any questions, statements, or comments?
The word of the Lord of hosts. I took you from the pastures and from following the sheep to be prince over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone and have destroyed all the enemies in your path. I will make you a great name among the great ones of the earth. I will assign a place for my people in Israel. There I will plant them, and they shall dwell in their own land.